Welcome back to Redefine Parenting with your host, Vinu Keller. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and her network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Redefine Parenting is a revolutionary approach to nurturing our children. Vini will bring you live experts, transformative insights, and a fresh perspective, all aimed at helping families worldwide truly understand their children. Together, let's give them a childhood they won't have. Hello and welcome to another great episode of Redefine Parenting, our first episode of the year of 2025. I had to bring an amazing guest for you all because this man is amazing. He is the founder and CEO of Clear Fork Academy. They have different locations. And the reason why I wanted to start this year off with him is because one of the biggest topics I think that we as not just a culture here, but in the world, as our kids are getting more and more, I would say, independent, where the influence of us parents is less and less. I feel mental health is becoming a bigger issue. Substance abuse is becoming a bigger issue. And so when I was reaching out to different guests to come onto my show, I call it Redefine Parenting for a reason. We have to start redefining the way we are parenting our kids. If we're parenting our kids the same way we are parented, we are not setting them up to win. And so when I was reading about Austin and what he created and his mission in really supporting our youth, I said, yes, like this is the guy I needed to bring onto my show. So without further ado, Austin, welcome to Redefine Parenting.
Hey, good morning, good evening, whatever it is. So happy to be here. Yeah. So thank you for the kind introduction.
Yes. So let's go ahead and just dive in. So let's start with what was your why for opening up Clear Fork Academy?
Well, I really thought I was going to be a youth pastor way back when. So my undergrad's in pastoral ministries, then I went to seminary. In the midst of doing that work, I was a youth pastor. And when a kiddo gets pregnant, runs away, catches a house on fire, gets adopted, whatever the scenario was, we weren't going to Romans and exegeting stuff out of the Greek or whatnot. I was using questions and then just sitting and just being present. And so I had several, counseling classes along the way. And so I just went to my dean. I was like, hey, I think this is a gift that I have, and I want to use this kind of parachurch and go get a license and do all the things. And yeah, kind of forfeited, 85 hours of Bible and theology to go get a master's in counseling. So I did that and worked in psych hospitals, did my internships and all the hours, worked with adults. And as I'm doing treatment with adults, inevitably, John over here starts talking about his 14-year-old self. And then Bill's like, oh, that happened to me too when I was 16. And then Mike says, oh, that happened to me when I was 12. Whatever it was like these grown men had wives, kids, families, businesses, the things, but the internal stuff was still coming to the surface, leading to mental health and substance use issues later on in life. And so kind of this epiphany, how do I take this youth pastor calling and all this clinical work and smash it together? And that's really the kind of origin story real fast of Clear Fork Academy.
I love it. And here's what I love the most is that my catchphrase for Redefine Parenting is give kids a childhood they won't have to heal from. And you just really explained it. I too started out in mental health. I have a degree in psychology, and I really thought my calling was to be a psychologist. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to actually help kids not be labeled by what their behavior is looking like, but actually talk to kids to say, what is going on? I get you are angry. Help me understand where this anger is coming from, because these are the questions that nobody asked me at 15 when I was suicidal, when I was cutting, when I was doing all this stuff. I was trapped in a psych hospital for 2 months with all these diagnoses getting thrown. No, she has anxiety, she has depression, she has like attachment disorder, she has all this. And my mom's like, whoa, 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 whoa. What are you saying about my daughter?
Yeah.
So this is why she's doing this. And my mom, being a single mom at that time, and this is back in the 80s, right? It's like diagnoses were flying around, medication was going off the shelves, ADHD was just like the biggest thing that next to sliced bread, every kid was ADHD. And my mom, thank God, was like, you're not going to medicate my daughter. Like, I am not going to sit here and put medicines in her growing body at the age of 15 because she has this behavior that corresponds with what you're talking about, but yet we really don't know. And so I think we all have gifts in our life, and I think they start to evolve when we're kids and we don't even recognize that they're evolving at that time. And I always tell people I had to go through the life that I had in order to be who I am today, to have this TV show, to say, hey, there is more to parenting than just punishing your child because they didn't do right. Bribing your kids to do something because you think it's the right thing to do, not what they think is the right thing to do. And it's having the conversation with our kids to say, hey, what is going on? Help me understand you. I don't want to make a judgment about you because I know I'm going to be wrong. I want to ask you what's going on. And I know that this has turned into such a beautiful business for myself, being able to coach youth. And one of the things that I do differently is that, you have people that coach parents, you have people that coach kids. I coach both. Out that bridging that gap of creating better communication between the child and the parent, we're not going to win at this. And my whole thing, I think it really goes with your guys' mission, is setting kids up to win. How do we set them up to win? So it just really corresponded to like what you were saying about these men who were like, oh, the 15-year-old and me, the 14-year-old, which we do need more of your places around, because these kids, I feel, are being misunderstood by past references that us adults think is going on with these children.
Yeah, and I did our clinical treatment team this morning with one of our campuses, and we just talked about conduct disorder, and and really all those things are just billing codes. And in essence, that's what the psych hospital was doing to you, was how can we get paid for this girl being in our facility? And it's a necessary evil for us to utilize insurance and things like that, but we have to differentiate what is a billing code and what is symptomology, and then why is the symptomology there? So the billing code associates a set of symptoms, but we don't we need to ask why 4, 5, 6 times of why those symptoms are there, instead of just symptom treatment.
I love that. And I've never seen it that way, but I definitely can appreciate that. And so I'm not a doctor or licensed anything. I would say just a coach. And with that, I get beautiful results with my clients.
Certainly.
One of the things that I love about that is that your clients are not the billable code, the billable code.
Right.
Your clients are people that are displaying this behavior, and the behavior is the effect. And that's what I want families and our listeners to know, is that what our children display, whether it's doing drugs, drinking, cutting, suicidal tendencies, that's all the effect of what's really, really going on with that child. And I feel it's people like you, like me, and others, that when we think of the effects of the outside shell, when we crack it open to see what's really going on with that kid, I don't believe that we can even have a correct diagnosis unless, and I want to say this, unless there is a chemical imbalance that's truly creating something, because there are some true diagnoses that are medically there. Autism.
Yeah. I mean, and you can go back to objective results. You can do a test for that and see biomarkers or things like that, or do a cognitive brain scan. Like there's objective things that tell us those before we start medicating, or a set of symptomology is kind of subjective, because as a parent, like, your kid's acting out, and like, my kid acts like that all the time, that's normal. So it's different, symptomology is whatever's normal.
Right. Right. I just thought it was definitely, I don't want our listeners to think, so like my kid doesn't have this. Like, no, no, no.
Oh
If
no,
you,
you certainly do. Right? And we have those as clinicians. We have those set of symptoms so that we know. Like if we say Ford Taurus versus Porsche, right? Those are different. You can associate different things with those definitions or words.
right. That's a great analogy. I really like that. Yeah. You're a guy. We always go to cars, it seems like.
Sorry, it's like sports or cars or music for me. So
I
it's
love it.
it's all
I
you
love
get.
it. Okay. So tell me, I see more and more, like when I grew up, and it's interesting because with my clients that I speak to, um, and then some of them smoke. And I'm thinking this whole time
Mm,
it's cigarettes because I smoked when I was 15. And marijuana was like a big drug back then. It's like,
yeah,
oh, marijuana, the gateway drug, and stay away from it or you're going to get onto this other stuff. And now when they say they smoke, they're actually talking about marijuana. They're talking
yeah. It's
about
not
weed.
Marlboros or
No, it's not. I was
yeah,
like, oh, I learned so much. I'm going to tell you, I love my clients because I get to learn so much. My poor
yeah.
twins, on the other hand, don't get to hide much from me because like
It's
they're
true.
talking this stuff. I'm like, oh, I know what you're saying. I know
Yeah.
exactly what that means. So it's kind of a interesting dynamic here at my house, but it's more and more kids are smoking weed. Parents, I know parents that smoke weed with their kids. It's
Mhm.
like it's interesting
Yeah.
the way the world is now.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, like some of our parents are our biggest triggers for our kids, right? I mean, so we do inpatient treatment, we do outpatient treatment. And so we literally have to tell parents when they come in for visitation in the residential, like, leave your purse in the car, leave everything in car but your keys, because I know you have your vape pen with you and a bottle of Xanax or painkillers or something like that. Like those are our parents, and that's why our kids are in treatment, right? Is the parents use it recreationally or quasi responsible, and where our kids, their brains aren't formed, and so it's just they just go full blast with anything. So yeah, we've kind of seen it all with our families and kids. And so relapse prevention plans are built around, okay, what are the things in the house? Is there an open liquor cabinet? Is mom gonna vape? Is mom gonna smoke? Or is dad gonna continue to deal, or whatever it is? It's just like it is a systemic issue, and it's very hard for the kiddos to be successful when the families that are supporting them are using.
So I have a question. Here's one of the biggest question is if I don't want my kid to smoke pot, what do I do? I'm going to ground them. And here's my take on this. You're
No,
not going to stop your kid
no.
because the minute they're out that door, they're going to do it. So here's what I ask my clients. I'm like, what's your number one outcome? They're like, for them not to do it. I'm like, you're going to lose. You're,
Yep.
you're setting yourself up to lose. So what's your next outcome? And they're like, I don't know. And I said, well, let me tell you, being a parent of 6 kids, and my son did smoke pot. Um, and here's what I wish I would have done differently. I wish my child would have known my number one thing is for you to be safe, and that you're not driving a car, smoking weed or,
Hmm.
anything else. And so my question to my parents is like, what would you need to know so your child's safe? If you know they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
What is your take on that? If a parent says, how do I get my kid to stop? Like, what do I need to do? Because the first thing parents want to do is go to punish, and punish is not the answer.
Yeah, so I mean, like the serenity prayer in the steps or whatever, it's help me understand the things that I can control and release the things that I cannot. And so I go back to mom, what do you need to be in control of? Stop worrying. Can you control that? Can you go get a hobby, mom? So I feel like the more we help our parents be autonomous from their kid becomes autonomous. And they go, wait, I shouldn't drink and drive. Wait, I shouldn't go out with that girl. Wait, I shouldn't steal that. And so it's this paradox of like when mom stops hovering, kid actually becomes who he or she is supposed to be. And then for the kid, um, I think about it as replacement. Like I played sports, and if I didn't, I would have been one of my kids. I'm entrepreneurial. I'm hard headed. When you tell me no, it's just like fuel on the fire, right? So like I have that built in me, just like all of my kids. And so I just try to think of it as is how can I help this kid be successful at something other than using drugs?
Right.
And that's their passions with music or art or school. So as a parent, I always just show them like, hey, let's fuel this and then this will go away. It's like feeding your yard, right? Like you don't try to pluck all the weeds, you just make the grass grow around it greener, and the green grass kind of kills the weeds.
Mm,
And that's kind of my philosophy with parents who are fixated, on their kids' behavior.
right. I think for me, it's really about what is a child getting from smoking weed?
Yeah.
Are they
What-
escaping?
What's the benefit?
Right. Like, what is it? Is there a lot of yelling going on in the house? Is dad too controlling that this is the only thing they feel they can control? It's the feeling like,
Mhm.
it's that high feeling, like it's that euphoria feeling that they don't feel they can get from anything else. They have to get it from this. And it
Mhm.
gives them that break from school and the pressures of parents and the pressure of school and the pressure of their peers. And because I have clients that just smoke it by themselves. They literally will smoke it and they're like, Coach
Yeah.
V, my homework's done, my day's done, and I just want to chill. And so
Yeah.
I will go on my vape and that's it. Like I'm not driving, I'm safe and trying to help the parents understand that. And we have, and I've had success. And guess what? Once we got rid of that, their relationship grew better.
Mhm.
It grew together in a way that number one, my client never expected because all of a sudden they felt trust from their
Right.
parents. They
For
felt,
sure.
again, like you said, they're not hovering, like trying to control and dictate. It's like they dictate everything in my life. And now I'm going to show them. And then once they realize that it's nothing to hide or get away with, they don't need to really
It's
be,
normalized.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. But here's my concern. Like I brought it up, back in the 80s, we said it was the gateway drug.
Sure.
And my husband laughed at me. He's like, you realize we're not in the 80s anymore.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but that's still, I watched my brother died of drug abuse.
Mm.
My cousin died of drug abuse. Like I've had a lot of beliefs around it because I've watched it. And of
Wow.
course, give me a belief, my brain won't lie to me. So it's going to give me reasons why I'm right.
Yep.
I haven't found a different reason yet to say, well, if the high for these kids that are, having substance abuse or a substance addiction, if the high isn't big enough or grandiose enough for them with marijuana, do they start to try other things? And then do they get addicted to that because they're getting addicted to the high or the escape or whatever? So for someone who specializes in this, I would love to hear what we can do, what parents can do.
Well, I'm going to go back to the new gateway drug is our phone, right? Because it's that dopaminergic
Dopamine hit.
pathway that we're just hitting all day, all day, all day, all day. And when that dopamine level is depleted, right? I need something stronger. I need a substance to now ingest in order to get that same euphoria, that same calming effect. I can't sleep. Well, I'm gonna hit my vape so I can go to bed. Or so I think now our kids are so programmed to hit that dopamine button. Um, so I think that's our gateway drug now. And so um, back to the original quote. What was your
So then,
summarize it?
like, if that's the case, like, then parents get like, okay, is the next thing going to be crack? Is the next thing going to be cocaine? Is the next thing going to
Yeah,
be
so it's going to escalate so fast right now because there's so many variants of marijuana. I mean, I've seen kids esophagus close up just from smoking, the leaf, or I've seen uh, ER visits because it was laced with, fentanyl now and things like that. And so, I mean, they're like the true substances, they're going to escalate. I mean, if you're smoking recreationally, especially when you're impaired, like what's a handful of pills, what's a bottle of vodka, what's, hey, I don't know what's going on with those mushrooms, but I'm going to eat them. Like we just see it snowball, right? You just really see it snowball. And marijuana is so normalized right now. People don't even see it as an illegal
they're
substance. It,
not?
it is, in Texas where we are. So, um, again, and when you normalize things, you know, what's the next level?
So what do we do as parents? I mean, I got 12-year-olds, so I'm
I,
asking
I
you,
think
like,
you just
seriously, like,
continue to educate. I mean, you continue to educate on what it does to the brain, the long-term effects, the social effects. I grew up in the this is your brain on drugs era with the
yeah,
frying
me
pan, right?
too.
Like, some of that kind of stuff, not really to scare tactic, but it all comes back to relationship and trust. Um, you know, just teaching our kids what it looks like and how those relationships are and what the temptations are going to be, maybe even role playing like how to say no, like what, because everybody's going to get peer pressured or bullied into doing it, the first time if they say no. So it's a lot of just relationship building with your kid.
Yeah, and also what I tell parents, for those that are listening, is get your kids in activities. A
Right.
a a a a mind that is stagnant will be more prone to find ways to get those dopamine hits, to feel like they fit in, and also the social peer pressure. I've done a lot of work for Tony Robbins, and one of the things he says is, show me the 5 people you hang out with, I'll show you your life. Like, you are
Yeah.
who you hang out with.
Show me
And
your friends and I'll show you your future is my
yes,
saying to the kids. So
yes, all the time. And I mean, I share that with my kids too. And here's the deal. It's like, we're not lying to them.
mm,
Um, Unfortunately, and you brought this up in the beginning of the show, is that their frontal lobe is not developed.
yeah.
We have to be their frontal lobe. And I was trained by Dr. Amen, one of the best brain trainers in the world. And I was watching when I was going through his course, one of it was on adolescent brain. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's what I need to be. I was trying to explain this to parents of why the kids argue, why the kids push the envelope, why the kids don't get it, why they argue back. And it's like, because their frontal lobe is not developed.
Yeah.
They can't see the long-term consequences for the choices they make now. When
Right.
you say you could see them, they reject you and say, oh, you're just being my mom. And so it's finding that way for them to understand that, look, when, for you guys that are 28, your frontal lobe's finally developed. For girls, it's 25. And
Yeah.
before that, how could we build a relationship where you trust me enough to know that I'm not here to kill your fun? Like, that's
Mm,
really not what my aim as your mom is to do, is kill your fun. I know you think that, but it's really not. Like, I want you to have fun in life. I want you to have friends. I want you to have a peer group. I want you to have all of that. So when I say no, it's really not about that. It's because I see something and the potentials of something. And so I'm telling you that it's not a great choice right now.
yeah.
Let's talk about different choices. And that's what I kind of do with my families. It's teaching them how to have an open, safe, trusting, loving space from the time you're 10, 11, 12. So when you're 15, 16, 17, and you're the peer pressure is really on at that point,
Hmm.
what do you do, right? How do you say no? And I love what you just said about role playing, like, role play with them real scenarios. Because here's the truth: our kids spend more time away from us now more than ever
Hmm.
than we used to. Because they're, even in the 80s growing up, generally there was always a parent home. Dad was still working. It was
Yeah.
just the era where, with the latchkey kids, I was one of them, started to come up, and we started to, but by the time we got home and then mom was there to make dinner and whatnot,
Yeah.
it's not like that anymore.
Yeah. The traditional family is very, very different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I had a couple images when you were talking about building trust. And so I've got 3 kids. My son's 12 and I have 2 girls, 10 and 8. I
God
taught
bless
all
you.
3 of them to ride their bikes, and so that's a trust building activity early on in life. And then I taught them all how to swim, right? And we've all been in the pool and hold out our hands to tell our kid to jump in. And what we're really saying is, trust me, I have you. And we've said those words, trust me, I've got you. Right. And if you're mean like me, you step back real fast and they fall in and go under, and then you pick them up. But we have to curate those moments at every kind of age gap in their life. So, like my son and I, at his 10th birthday, we climbed to almost 13,000 feet with just our backpacks. And so it was a trust in a moment. It was like we saw hail, we saw rain. We stayed 3 nights, and so there's a lot of fear there when you're that high and away from reality. So parents need to continue to build those things day in and day out. I'm coaching my son right now in basketball. He's 12 and trying to get his elbow underneath the shot, like, because I'm challenging his heart and his mind and his spirit. So when I have to have that conversation, like, don't date that girl, or, don't do those drugs, or don't make that choice, don't take that job when he's 25 or 30, he's gonna flash back and go, okay, dad taught me to swim, dad took me on that mountain, those sort of moments. And so I put those in the bank, so when I need to cash them in, he goes, I'm going to listen to dad.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that because like one of the things that, I have 12-year-old twins, and one of the things that we're going through is my daughter, when I find things out, she's like, I just didn't want you to be mad. And I said, we have to build a trust. As much as I want you to trust me, I want to trust you.
Yeah.
And how is that?
Absolutely.
How are we going to do that? What do we need to do? Because if we gotten to this point where you feel you still need to lie about this because you don't want to get in trouble, what is in trouble? Like, we
Right.
don't hit you. You don't get grounded. Like, you may have to be off the distraction because you're not getting your schoolwork done. But as soon as your schoolwork's done, you could have your distraction back.
Yeah.
It's like, so it has having those open and raw conversations along with what you were talking about is like, remember, when you needed to get picked up because you were upset, I picked you up.
Right.
Every time you were upset, who has your back? Who lays down with you? Who's there to hear you? And it's coming without judgment. And the minute my kids feel like I judge them, and I could tell by their tonality, by the way, if parents want to know, well, I don't judge my kids, listen to your kids' tonality back, and they feel judged. Whether that's your intention or not, they feel judged. And now my husband and I are catching ourselves and we're like, I'm sorry. Did you think I was judging you?
Right.
Yes. Their answer is always yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it really is like, did you experience shame?
Correct.
Right. And that shame cycle perpetuates the negative behavior. I am bad, so I'm going to go do bad. Well, mom thinks I'm bad. Right. So it's that, that judgment is really shame on their end. And we work a lot with our kids of like, they had a poor sexual choice, or where there was a rape or trauma. So undoing that shame of I am sexually broken is really huge to thwart those, maladaptive patterns of behavior that ensue.
Right. Right. And it's helping them understand, like, it's like mom's apologizing. I am apologizing to you because you took it in a way that that's not what I meant. In order for us to build trust, you need to recognize that when I'm asking you these questions, and I'm a quality question person, I don't use why did you do that? Because why did you do that is definitely going to put them on the defense. It's more of like, you made that choice. Here's what's happened. If you could make a different choice, what would you make?
Yeah.
Knowing this is going to happen, what would you make then? And giving them that open conversation that says, wow, she's really giving me choice. Because my biggest thing that I tell parents is, put your kids at choice. Don't hover. Don't make their choices for them. Let them know you trust them to make a better choice. And one of the things that I've been learning from my mentor, William Whitecloud, is that there is no good or bad. It is literally a decision we're making in that moment that's going to take us down the right way or the left way. And either way, something's going to happen no matter what path we choose. And guess what? We can course correct.
Right. And you just named our company for us, right? Like Clear Fork. Every decision is a fork in the road for us.
Oh, I love that.
It's the highway to hell or a new legacy. And that's kind of how we position it to our kids. And it's, you can go and punch your parent or cuss them out, or you can say, hey, mom, that kind of hurt. I wish you would speak to me in a different tone.
Yeah.
It's totally different life when you do that.
Well, it's interesting. One of my older sons, because I have two from my previous marriage, and then I have my stepdaughters, and then my husband and I have twins together. And my older kids always tell me, you raise them so differently. Like, you actually let them talk to you. Why would you let them talk to you? Because they'll hear my daughter saying, you're not hearing me. You're just not hearing me. All you're doing is talking over me. And it makes my older kids mad when they say that. And I'm like, we give them that right. Like, if they feel that we're not hearing them, Would I rather them tell me that you're not hearing me, to really what it's doing is telling me to pause and say,
Yeah.
if I was hearing you, what would I say differently?
Mm-hmm.
What would it look like to you if I was really hearing you? Because to me, I'm hearing you, but you obviously don't think I am. So tell me what that looks like.
Yeah.
And it's because my older kids weren't raised that way. My older
Mm-hmm.
kids were like, you don't say anything. I said it. Don't even say yes, ma'am. Just do what
Yeah.
I say.
Do what I
You know,
say.
it was old school. I'm the parent, you're the child. You don't have a say in this conversation. I'm going to tell you. And I think that was what really led me on this path. And I also see more self worth, more self esteem with my
Mm,
twins than I saw with my two older boys because
sure.
I raised them through my baggage.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. And I think that's kind of what, you were gearing to when you were talking about these families that their kids are there. And it's like, wait a second, you're still going through your own baggage and you're trying to change your child, probably because they see the mirror, first of all.
Oh yeah.
But second of all, when are you willing to do the work for you so your child can do the work for them?
Mm-hmm.
That's the huge thing
Yeah.
is we've got to get parents to let go of their baggage and stop raising their child through that baggage because all we're doing is transferring it for
Yeah. You
real.
just perpetuate the cycle.
For sure, for sure. So do you feel in your line of work, do you see more children with substance abuse related to mental health, or is that really just
Chicken
a
or the egg?
band-aid?
Yes,
Yeah,
chicken or the egg, right? Like, um, does I think every so I treat substance use as a mental health disorder,
I
right?
love
Like
it.
it. So substance abuse is the low hanging fruit on the tree, and so that tree has branches. Those branches are tied to a trunk, and that trunk has roots. So we're going to try to funnel all that stuff back into the root and go, okay, really, what is it, right? Like, I mean, I've had everything from a super high performing family. And the mom was just on the kid, on the kid, on the kid, on the kid. And he was going to Air Force Academy and straight A's and like just model citizen, but he smoked and ate some Xanax, right? Where did he get those things? Mom, right?
Mm.
But come to find out through the course of stuff, dad was a pilot and cheated on mom. And now all of that anxiety instead of towards dad was to the kid. The kid wasn't able to cope, you know, and so he used drugs. And so once we figured out mom and dad's stuff, the kid was like, oh, I can breathe, you know. So it's I've seen it all across the board of, is it the mental health or is it substance use? I've seen kids um primary mental health, right? And they can't manage that anxiety or depression. And then so they start using, or kids who start using and they're like, now all of a sudden they're just psychotic or depressed or some dysphoria, whatever it is, because it's substance induced and their brain uh, chemicals just don't work.
I think it also gives them an excuse to do it.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I'm depressed, then this is what I need. And here, medical marijuana. It's a tongue twister. For what? Oh, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
Oh, I must have that, so that makes it okay. It's
Yeah.
one of my great friends, Steve Linder. He says, "Excuses or results. What do you choose?"
Mm,
And I've lived by that since 2008. Since I heard that, excuses or results. What am I going to choose? And when it comes to big decisions or small decisions, if it becomes to me procrastinating, that's a choice. It's a choice to
yeah.
procrastinate. And am I going to use the excuse of procrastination, or am I going to look at the results that I'm not getting or I want to get and just push forward through it? And it's teaching our kids this and helping them understand. I think one of the things that you probably see in your facilities and around, because I know I'm seeing it with my clients, is the number one thing parents tell me is lack of motivation. My child is not motivated.
Yeah.
And here's what I wrote a while ago. And I read it to one of my 12-year-old clients. And she goes, "Oh my God, where did you get that?" And I said, "I wrote it." I said, "I wrote this after working with so many kids that were not motivated." And she's like, "That's exactly what goes on in my mind." So
Mm,
here's what it is. Parents put so much pressure on their kids have to have good grades, their kids have to be the best at the sport, the kids have to have friends. It's the have tos. And when the kids aren't fulfilling that, all of a sudden it's like They've already gotten yelled at so much for not doing it. They've already gotten punished for so much for not doing it. And when they do make stride and they feel good about it, it's still not good enough. So all of a sudden, what I tried wasn't good enough. So why try at all? And if at least you think I'm lazy, that's the worst I have to hear is I'm lazy, but at least I'm not getting smacked down for every time I put an effort because
Yeah.
your child's not perfect the way you want it to be. And when I talked to the parents, I said, what would it mean if your child got a 75? 75? My child? Absolutely not. I said, well, what did that mean to you? That, I spent all this money on aftercare, special schools, tutoring. Absolutely not. They need to get punished. And said, what will punishing do for them? It will teach them. It'll teach them what? What's it going to teach them? Because here's the deal. A grade at school literally is a measurement tool of that chapter. Did they understand the Boston Tea and get all the dates right and all the people and why it started? Because in that moment, if they put the wrong date down, they didn't pass that because it was a 5-question thing. They already didn't get it right.
Yeah.
All because their brain could not remember a date. It got confused. Not because they're dumb, not because of anything, but because of that. So if they forgot it and they really didn't know, then the grade was accurate. It's telling you they did not comprehend it. They didn't know it. So what can we do then to teach them that, to comprehend it and move forward? No. It means that I failed as a parent. I said, that's what we're getting at.
That's it. Right.
There you go. Has nothing to do with your child. But now your child is not motivated. Your child disrespects you because they feel disrespected by you. And now you have this beautiful conundrum you're caught in, and you still don't feel like a great parent. So what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah. Behavior didn't work. Yeah.
And so this is where kids are right now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you're seeing that same thing. Do you have a different idea of why kids don't have motivation?
I think it would go back to that phone and that dopamine, right? So it's, I fight my son all the time. We're a homeschool family. My wife's an educator for a decade. So like we decided to do the homeschool thing. And so I'm like, bro, you need to go outside and you need to shoot 100 shots from these 3 locations if you want to start in basketball. He's like, yeah, but can I just play the Nintendo a little bit before I go out? Because it's totally different in the brain. And so they want to hit that dopamine button. And when that stuff's liquidated, what are you motivated for? And so I think, parents can facilitate growth and motivating their kids, having boundaries and expectations, having a family standard, and helping our kids know and understand. I treat a lot of doctors, kids, and attorneys and pilots and things like that. And these kids are just like, I'm never going to be as rich as my dad. I'm never going to be as smart. I'm never going to be. And I'm like, hey, like, who cares? I'm reframing that with the kid and like literally like, who cares? And then I have to go to dad and say, hey, look, like the template of a man isn't what God has designed for this kid. And maybe it is. And it's just in 10 years. And you got to let that plant grow. You just can't force it to become how big and strong you think it should be. And so now the job to do that is clapping and cheerleading and saying, hey man, like way to go. Like you rode your bike around the block and you came back on time. And, again, that's a trust building thing. And then he gets a motorcycle and then, and like those things grow. I think as parents, sometimes we forget how many times we screwed up stuff, the first 30 years of our life.
For sure.
and we expect the 10-year-old to like just get straight A's and make it right the first time. And I know I'm guilty of that as a dad, of just like my expectations are so high now, like, oh my God, like Emma's 8, like it's okay. It's okay that, she spilt her milk or whatever it was.
Right. I think one of the things that we do is like when the twins were like, okay, screen time's over. And when they like, okay, and they turn it off, I'm like, I love how you got off that. There's no issue. Like, good
Celebrate
for you.
the moment. Celebrate the moment every time.
Coming to dinner on time. Thank you for not going, oh man. Like, thank you for no comments. Thank you for just accepting it. I said, look at how this works better. And then we're not on you. And because we've taught them, we're like, Here's where we see the addiction. The minute we're like, hey, we got to leave, and you're throwing a fit because you
Mhm.
can't leave that game, there's an addiction going on here. There is
Yep.
a pure addiction, because the minute you can't finish your schoolwork and the bell rings, you don't throw a fit. You're like, oh, okay, the bell rang. I guess I got to do it later when I get home. And I was trying to avoid that, but you're able to do it later. The fact that you can't do that for on screen times. And honestly, I used to be that mom for everything my kids did, because the cell phones came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that's when, my older kids were born, and
Yeah.
so they grew up in their teens having the phones. And so at that point, I'm like, finally, leverage. You didn't do your homework, give me your cell phone. You talk back, give me your cell phone. You didn't do your chores, give me your cell phone. That was not the great. If I could erase that, I would do it differently. And now I have my do-overs. I say the time should fit the crime.
Sure.
And so what I notice is, like with my daughter, you're not doing your schoolwork. You have no electronics, no TV, no nothing. You can sit in your room and do absolutely nothing until you get your schoolwork done. And then when it's done, guess what? You're in choice. You could do whatever you want with your free time.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, giving her that autonomy of when she wants to do it, it's totally up to her, and helping her feel in her body, like, what does your body feel it needs right now? It needs to go outside and take a run. Then go do it. It needs to fuel because you're hungry. Then do it. You need to change your clothes because you're not comfortable in your school uniform. Then do it. You know what? I think I want to do my schoolwork. The minute I gave her that, and it was like, nope, you got to do it. You got to. She hasn't missed assignment since.
Yeah.
I'm like, we as parents make it so difficult for us.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of evidence with choice theory and Levin logic and those research veins. Yeah, that when we give our kids choice, um, and going back to marijuana or something like that, it's like you can't do this choice, but you can do A or B. And they're like, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. I've got A and B to choose from.
Right. And I think it's like you said, going back to giving them their own autonomy over it.
Yeah.
Teaching them. Now, I always tell parents, I said, it's controlled control. Like, control the choices you're giving them.
Yes.
Too many choices
Yes.
is not going to be good.
Yes.
I was sitting in my closet today looking at like what I want to wear, and I'm like, I don't know what to wear because I have too many choices. Like, it's literally, I'm like, oh my God, this is what a kid goes through when
Yes.
no one's helping them make a choice and narrowing it down. They have too many
Right.
choices. They don't make any choice.
Yeah. That's it.
Do you feel that substance abuse is getting easier and easier for kids to get, like substances?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's like alcohol or marijuana back in our day for, probably 5 decades, right? Like that was your two choices. And then, yeah, I mean, you can jump on any social media outlet and find anything you want right now.
Yes.
I mean, some Door Dasher's probably got it in his car as he brings you food, so yeah, I mean, it's every school, every whatever, I mean,
I just think about these 12-year-olds now that are doing it, or 11 or 10-year-olds. And I go back to when I was 10 years old and in fifth grade. I couldn't even fathom that. Like, we would watch
oh,
our parents smoke in the house, but not my parents, but like my friend's parents would smoke in
right.
the house. And we thought that was like, oh my God, when I get older, I'm going to smoke, because that's what adults do. With the Virginia Slims,
Yeah, yeah.
moms talking on the phone, smoking. Like my best friend Tiffany, her mom always had the phone and a cigarette and her
Fake
Coors
nails.
Light. Yes. And like leaf press on nails. And we thought, when we get older, that's what we're going to do. And, we would try to sneak a cigarette when we were like 14, 15, not 10,
Yeah.
12. I could not even imagine that drugs are on elementary school campuses. Like, I couldn't even fathom that until I was hearing things. Some of my clients are like, oh, before your session, I just want you to know that, my child's been exposed to this and we've had a talk, and just, can you talk to him? Because as a coach, the kids tell me a lot more than they're telling their parents.
Oh, yeah.
They're not in trouble. We're just going to process it and find out what we can do instead.
Yep.
And so the parents are telling me, and I was like, they're 11. And she goes, I know. And I'm like, okay, I need to wrap my head around this. Like what's the youngest that you take at your places?
So we're 13 to 17.
Even
Yeah.
wow.
So we get a lot of those 11, 12-year-old calls, and mom's like, can I bring him on his 13th birthday? And we're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's,
Why
we
13? Why not see them at 11 and 12?
our license, state of
Like,
Texas. So 13 and under is a child. And so we're technically adolescents. And then
okay,
you have adult at 18 and up.
good to
So
know.
it's just that niche window, 13 to 17.
Now, do you guys service people outside of it, like through Zooms and stuff?
Yeah, so we have 2 residential facilities. One's all boys, one's all girls, and then 2 outpatient facilities. And that will do in-person outpatient therapy, partial hospitalization stuff, and or day treatment, and then IOP, and then Zoom. So we'll take clients from all over the country, 24/7.
Nice, nice. That's I'm so glad that there's places like this that because you hear about I know here in North Carolina, like our treatment facilities got shut down.
Mhm.
I used to run group homes at one of the mental health facilities that I used to be the director for way back when, like in 2007 and 8. And I remember the state pulled all residential, like all these
Yeah.
kids, and then like we're fueling them back to their parents that don't know how to deal with the mental health, the substance abuse, like they're dual diagnosed,
Yep.
And so I know that was, and that's kind of why I got out of mental health. I'm like, you're tying our hands on how we can help people.
Mhm.
I just, I got to back out. That's why I went into coaching. Like I went into coaching because
Yeah. It's very
we had,
regulated.
it's not. And granted, we're not licensed, but I have several certifications where I've been trained with
Mhm.
ethics. And when there is a licensed person needed, I reach out. I'm like, I'm not a licensed person. Like, we need to get you. Like, I don't play,
Yeah.
you know, doctor by no means. I know my scope of where I stand. And for me, it's all behavioral. It's definitely all behavioral. It's looking at strategies. What do you want? Where are you at? How do we close the gap? And that's what I do. And a lot of it has to do with it. It goes back to the parents. It
Mhm.
really does. And that these kids do not feel that they have that safe and trusting space with their parent.
Yep.
And so they're reaching out. And the minute that they reach out, you no longer have an influence. And I tell my families all the time that you lose your ability to influence your child the minute you are judging them. Plain simple.
Yeah. It's fair.
You cannot judge your child. Come in curious, not critical. And
Yes.
that's like one of my thing all the time, be curious, not critical. And what does that mean? It means that when you're looking at their room, and I know I'm guilty of this with my daughter, looking at their room, you're not like, so, I mean, your face gives it away. My daughter tells me all the time, she goes, your face has already shown me what you think. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me try again. Sorry. Let me
Yeah.
try it one more time. But, we started asking her, my husband's better at this than I am, but how does this space make you feel right now? you know and when she's upset with us and she just wants to be a mismatcher at that time, she's like, it feels fine. And then but when things are good and her room is really clean, like, how does that make you feel? And the fact that you did it,
Yeah.
you clean your room, how does that make you feel? Like sleeping in it and really getting it associated to the kinesthetic feeling of this, where everything is not auditory and visual for them, that they just have to feel it in their body, and how they don't feel so much anxiety, how they
Mhm.
don't feel so cluttered in their life, and
Yep.
because it's our environment that makes them, it does something to their internal dialogue as well.
Yeah.
So cluttered, so cluttered. So we have just a couple more minutes, Austin. It's been so great. I could keep going on because I have probably so many questions I can ask. I'd love to have you back.
Love
Um,
it.
is there anything that you would want, like the last couple of like 3 nuggets or 1 nugget that you would want to leave our listeners all over the world about their kids?
I think, the phrase I grew up with was, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So just a little bit of prevention creates a whole lot of cure. So I always just tell people, don't wait, right? Like, if you're curious about something, ask your kid, and just be curious all the time. get to know your kids. My son and I have like this little sheet we keep in the truck when we go to practice. And so it's just a set of questions that he asks me and I ask him.
Like what?
And
You want to share some of those?
what did you have a fear this week that you didn't want to talk about? What was, a high and low? Just basic stuff. What is something you wish you would have tried in the last 7 or 8 days?
Oh, I love it.
Or what's something that you want or you're looking forward to? So we kind of change them up, but it's just kind of introspective questions, and he gets to ask me, and I ask him. I always end it was like, how would you like me to parent you differently? And what it made me cry, and it hurt me a little bit, when he said, Dad, sometimes you're just hard on me, and
You
and
needed to
I
hear
was
it.
like, I get it. And, I will work on it every day. And so, we talked about, what does that look like? How does that make you feel? And then what would you like me to do different? And so those dialogue questions, we're just do it in transit. We just do it, on the fly, but it's purposeful, it's meaningful. And I do it with my girls too. So, yeah, I would just say, just continue to know your kids. Don't ever think you're done. Just continuing to sharpen.
I love it. Yeah, I just started to create a quality question starters for parents and kids, so they have these and they can
Mm,
start just having these questions, and they can just pull it out randomly, and it's just like some of those types of questions, if you were my mom, what would you do for me differently?
yeah.
Because it's just giving you a whole different perspective of coming it from the 12-year-old mind, not the 51-year-old mind,
Yeah.
not the one that's fear based of I'm going to screw you up. So I have to have it this way because God forbid I screw you up. They're coming from like, I just want to live life. Like, I just want to grow
Yeah.
up and be this person. And I feel like at times you're just stopping me. Like, you can't see it through me. So, how are we able to see it through the eyes of our kids and
Hmm.
really be there? So, okay. So, that was one of them. What else do you do? You were talking about 3 different things that you do.
I think that's, I mean, for our messaging to our families, right? I think it's just don't wait, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's when you don't wait, you're in that preparation phase, and you'll be ready. Like, you'll be ready for the sex talk, you'll be ready for the drug talk, you'll be ready for the college talk. So it's just always nurturing that relationship. And I just, we live in a very, very distracted world and
Yeah.
society, and we say it with lip service that our family is most important to us, but we turn on Netflix the first thing we get home. We, you know, uh, get babysitters and, like, whatever, but like, really, really prepare for your kids, because they're not going to be in your hands, but a blink of an eye.
I love it. I love it. When I see people posting, they're like, don't blink, and their kids are getting older. I always say, like, my kids are 12. I have 6 more summers with them.
Yeah.
That's it. 6 summers, and then they're off to do what they do. So thank you so much for being here with us and all the knowledge that you gave. Where can people find you, Austin, on social media?
Yeah. Social media, clearforkacademy.com. I recently put like all my kind of the last decade or so of family intervention into a book.
Nice.
It's called My Kid, My Crisis. It's on Amazon. So yeah, we're out there, Austin Davis, or clearforkacademy.com. You can find us.
Beautiful. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on Redefine Parenting. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Redefine Parenting with Venu Keller. Follow her on Instagram at Venu Inspires. To learn more about Venu, as well as download her free ebook now, go to www.venuinspires.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it.